Here at Burdeen Jewelry, we have the good fortune of having multiple watchmakers on staff to not only take care but also service your watches as you wear them and enjoy them over time. Today, I have the incredible luxury of interviewing head watchmaker here at Burdeen Jewelry. Leo, thank you so much for joining me.
How are you? How you doing?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sitting down with me today and getting a little bit into kind of how you got into watches and also, a little bit into the movement and technical stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is, how did you get into watches and how did you ultimately become a watchmaker?
I'll try to answer that kind of in a short way. So, really, it was kind of an aha moment for me. My uncle has a small jewelry store in the south side of Chicago, and actually he was taking in a watch and he wanted to see if it was real, and it happened to be a Rolex. And I just, he opened it up, and once I saw inside, I was just, I was kind of mesmerized by what I saw, and I was like 30, man, that was 16 years ago. I was like 30 something by that time, and like I said, it was an aha moment. So I started asking around. I emailed Switzerland, and I ended up going to the WOSTEP School of Watchmaking in Minnesota for 2 years in St. Paul, and man, I've just been doing it ever since then, and I only wish I would have found it sooner.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I love it. Yeah.
And now, obviously, you've been head watchmaker here at Burdeen's for a number of years.
Just about a little over a year and a half or so. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It was a big move too.
I guess moving into kind of more so the technical side, right? Having, working on watches every single day. What are some of the quality hallmarks that you look for in a watch?
So after being here, I spent a lot of time at various places, but being here at Burdeen's, I've been able to see like watches that I only used to see in magazines. And I see a lot of beautiful watches. As far as quality, I would say for me, the most beautiful watch and quality-wise, I would say would be the Langes for me. I think the fit and finish is beautiful every time. Grand Seiko puts up a beautiful movement too. The finish is beautiful. The dials are just insanely beautiful. Jaeger LeCoultre. There's just so many. Moser. I've seen Moser here. Chapek. There's just so many. Like even brands that I would never hear of if I was not here. But I get to see them here, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I guess on the movement side, right, a lot of those brands that you mentioned kind of are known for their more decorative style when it comes to the movement, right? The perlage, the anglage, all that kind of stuff. Is that kind of more so the finishing of a watch is really what takes us to the next level versus
So for me, for me, because I like to see the intricacies of the watches, I like to see that there's no fingerprints, as simple as it sounds, no fingerprints, no lint. Everything's highly polished the way it should be. And just, no mistakes. The hands are precise, everything. And that's one of those brands that I see that. And one of the things that I always look for when I see a watch that's very expensive, and it usually does not fail. Yeah.
I guess, again, moving more so into the technical side, right? Servicing watches every day. That kind of gives you an inner insight as to maybe what makes a movement more or less prone to need service. What would you say are some of those qualities?
Wow, that's a funny question, because we get to see a lot of head cases here as far as watches that have just been through, they've been through the ringer. Watches that have been through motorcycle accidents, people falling off roofs. I heard of somebody hanging. He was hanging by his watch from a ladder. So it was just a weird story, and the bracelet was mangled. So we see a lot of different capes. So a lot of times I would say it's usually user maintenance, how they handle their watch. Do they take a shower with it? Are they taking their watch that's not water resistant into pools, into jacuzzis? I have old watches that are not water resistant, and I never get them fogged up. I just kind of take care of them, and I clean them a little bit, and I keep them, under maintenance. And I think that helps a lot to not get your watch serviced as much. But also they should be maintenance at least every 5 years or so. I mean, as a precaution, to keep everything the way it should be and keep everything timing well.
Yeah, I guess so. It doesn't really vary from brand to brand. Probably the most important thing you would say is just how you take care of the watch.
100%, absolutely. Yeah, impacts, anything like that, you're dropping it. I mean, that's, you know.
Now we also hear about, like, for example, like Rolex, right? The legendary service, intervals like 10 years or 15 years without a watch.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, obviously from a watchmaker standpoint, that's pretty alarming, right?
I wouldn't suggest that. With Rolexes, I think they have some, they have some things where they need to be looked after a certain amount of years. Rotors, for example, if you don't take care of that, you're going to cause a lot of damage internally, stuff like that. So I wouldn't recommend 10, 15-year intervals for any kind of watch. I would say 5 years at most should be, I mean, you should not go over that, for sure, if you want to avoid damage.
That's amazing insight.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen also a lot of kind of different trends in the watch industry, specifically, like, for example, brands moving to in-house movements versus, relying maybe on your off-the-shelf ETA-based movements, Lemania-based movements, all that kind of stuff. What do you think are some of the most important trends impacting the watch industry today?
Oh, wow. So I would say a lot of the big impacts I've seen since I've started, the use of different materials. And I think it gets increasingly more and more innovative. Your ceramics, your titaniums, your carbons. Yeah, UN, another one of my favorite brands. Doesn't get appreciated as much, I think. They do a lot of cool stuff. They do a lot of innovative stuff, and the Freak is one of my favorite watches. The Freak X is, another watch that kind of got me interested in watchmaking. Just, how weird it looks. I like that kind of stuff. So I would say what impacts the watch, I mean, just the innovativeness, everybody doing, kind of cool stuff and stuff that's going to bring the younger generation into, I know some of these watches are very expensive, but it brings in a lot of the younger generation into these cool mechanisms and how you don't need electricity and batteries, to run these watches.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's also a trend that we've seen a lot more. So I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, right, with the rise of independent watch brands, the likes of a Chaltech and MB&F and Brutal Force, all those kind of different brands, we're kind of focusing rather on the traditional techniques of Swiss watchmaking and the traditional kind of complication of things. I guess my question, to follow up on that is, what are some of the things that you'd like to see in the future, maybe from larger brands or even independent watchmakers?
Well, me personally, I like a lot of old school looking watches. I like the older designs of, like, Rado used to have back in the day, Hamilton. And I'd like to, and you see a lot of little throwback styles. Zenith does a lot of those too. And I like the way they look. I miss the fluorescent hands and, the different colored hands on the dials and that make things pop. I kind of miss that stuff. I like to see a little bit more of that. I think in technical standpoint, sometimes I think watchmakers just, the houses themselves, the maisons, they tend to just do things because they can do it, just to show they can do it. And that's amazing. But to me, I think the more I do this, I like the simpler, the better, for me. Although I can appreciate, the very complicated pieces.
Absolutely. Sometimes making a simple watch kind of is achieving that level of perfection more difficult than making an uber complicated watch.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the insight. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. Guys, if you did enjoy this type of video, please be sure to obviously like the video, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And of course, leave comments down below for Leo. I can always be in touch with him. He can help answer questions. And I would love to do maybe at some point a follow-up video with some of the people's questions for you.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. No, my pleasure.
Thanks so much for watching, guys.